Welcome back to WagerTalk.com. We're heading to bowl action. We've got the Cactus Bowl, and we've got Baylor and Boise State. Guys, in an earlier video, we talked about Miami winning their last 6 games to get into a bowl game. I don't think I've ever seen a team lose 6 games in a row and get into the bowl game, and that's what we got with Baylor. They started the season 6-0, and then they had that heartbreaking loss against Texas, and then the season just totally unraveled. I'll start with you, Preston. What do you make of this Baylor team? We always talk about motivation. Now that they're in a bowl game, now that they see which direction their future is going to go, it's not going to be for this game, obviously, but Mark Rule's taking over the program, and this is not your normal hiring. Like at the end of the season, guys usually leave to go to a better pasture. Here, this is going to be an upgrade because they had an interim coach all year. How do you take their motivation here?
I don't know. There's one thing you could look at that I think might play a pretty big factor. It was, I think, a week ago now from today, last Wednesday, the new quarterback, Zach Smith, I believe is his name. He took over when Seth Russell broke his leg or whatever happened. I don't even actually recall if it was his leg or not. But anyway, he had a season-ending injury. Zach Smith took over. When they hired Mark Rule, this kid tweeted, and he had to since come out and clarify what he meant, basically kind of make something up. It was pretty evident where his intentions are. But his tweet literally said, "I'll decide if I'm coming back to Baylor next year, depending on who our offensive coordinator is going to be." And that just tells the whole story. Not only one is he not really focused about the bowl game, and he's more concerned about, I guess, his future as a quarterback individually, but the entire team. If I was his teammate, I would be very upset. Like, I'm supposed to count on this guy? Like, no way. And I mean, we called it back in mid-season. We said fade Baylor the last 6 weeks of the year. I mean, they weren't a very good team to begin with. Now they lost their star quarterback, and you have this kid who thinks he can just decide where he wants to go based on who the coach is, or he gets to pick the offensive coordinator. It's just a lot of weirdness. And I think in general, Boise, they're kind of overlooked because they're spoiled in general, honestly. Chris Peterson's there, and they win every Mountain West Conference in the championship, and they go to bowl games like the BCS Bowls and win. They lose them, and they have 10-win seasons with 2 losses on the road by a possession or less. And they're like, it's a bad year for them, and they're a bad team now. Now look at Chris Peterson. Look how good he is. What he did at Washington in 3 short years. Boise's still a really solid football team. I actually like them. I think even with the hook at 7.5, if you can't find a 7, I lean Boise pretty strong.
Ralph, you look at Boise, and their 2 losses were close, but they also had several wins that were very close as well. It just didn't seem like this Boise team was what we've seen in the past. And again, like Preston said, we're spoiled. But, the fact is they were a money-burning 3-9 against the spread. I think they're still carrying those big numbers in the respect from the past and hasn't caught up to it's not Peterson there anymore.
Boise 1-6 as a favorite their last 7 games, and obviously a favorite here. Now I'm gonna give one negative for Baylor and then a couple positives to add on what Preston said about the freshman Zach Smith. Their career-leading rusher Shock Linwood has now decided he's not playing. Now, for those that don't follow college football as close, Fournette started this trend. McCaffrey followed it, saying they weren't going to play in the bowl. Linwood is nothing like those 2 players. He had 700 yards. He had a couple great years, but he wasn't part of this team this year. So that's not a loss like Fournette or McCaffrey is.
The line didn't even budge.
Right, and it shouldn't have. So, but I'll tell you what, Baylor only had 2 games as a dog all year. Was the Oklahoma game where Linwood was suspended and Seth Russell was hurt. That was Zach Smith's first time relieving him. Zach Smith, his last 3 games, 60% completions, 293 yards per game passing, an 8-6 ratio. So not great, not horrible. What you got to remember, though, with these bowl practices, you're only allowed 15 practices in spring. When you're in bowl weeks now and the kids aren't in school, you're allowed 20 weeks of practice. That's like 10 practices per week for these kids. You get a lot of benefit with these bowl practices. Baylor still has more talent on the field. I think the line's inflated, and I think that Baylor can hang within this number despite all of their off-field issues.
Yeah, I'm going to be the tiebreaker here, and I'm going to lean with Ralph. I like Baylor here, and 2 reasons. One, as I alluded to when we started the video, I think that the program's going back in the right direction with the hiring that they have, so the future's bright. I like the fact that the last game of the season, Baylor played their guts out against a very good West Virginia team, covered. And I think part of it was, they were sitting at, 5-6, didn't want to end the season, on 6 straight losses. But more importantly, it's been a long time since Baylor's had a losing season. And I don't think this class wants to be the team that goes down and finishes with a losing season. And obviously at 6-6, they lose, they're 6-7. So I think they want to get that win for the winning season. And, as far as the comments, I would rather the quarterback have kept his mouth shut, but now you have opened up your mouth. You better go out and play well. I mean, back up what you said, because if you're not going to be there, you need to go somewhere else, so you're going to have to show something. I think Baylor has better talent, even though they were distracted at the end of the season. I think that this might be a reward for Baylor. We talk about, is the game a reward or not? It's been a bad season. Let's finish it on a good note and look to the future with the new coach.
One last note. Boise had great fan support when they were in the Fiesta Bowl down here in the Phoenix area. They are not selling tickets. They are going to take a loss on this bowl and lose money because they cannot sell tickets to this game. So people are not making the trip. They will not have that home support. I mean, Baylor's 1,000 miles away. They're not going to have much more of a fan base, but it's a heck of a lot closer from Texas to drive if you have some fan base in Western Texas to get there, where you're not going to have support for the Boise faithful.
All right, there you go. 2 votes for Baylor plus the points. Cheetah leans to Boise State. And guys, every Tuesday at Wager Talk, it's $2 Tuesday. You can get a best bet from one of our cappers for just $2. Each week, Johnny Detroit will pick who's going to be the $2 capper, and you'll get his play for just $2. And don't forget, all weekend long, Santa 10 is going to save you $10 on a package at Wager Talk. Check it out. Go to the site. Pick what you want, use that $10 coupon. It's our Christmas present to you. We'll be back with a best bet from Preston and myself up next.